There we go. Hello. We are on. Today is going to be a little bit lighter. Actually, I think I'm a bit early. Ooh, look at that. Ah, no, I'm right on time. I'm right on time for being 15 minutes late. Thanks for showing up. Okay, we have a lot of stuff today, and I mean, we did lots of technique about tracing and all that stuff earlier in the week. So today we are not going to do any flow stuff. Well, we're going to do flow stuff. I'm going to show you some really new cool things that we released with version 1.12.0 this week. And I'll talk to you about a couple of projects that came up. I wanted to talk about them earlier this week, but I didn't get to it yet. So let's just dive in. There's two projects I want to talk about. And the first one is from Andy Dent. Andy has been kicking around with the Flow community for a very long time. And it's really cool to see. It's really cool to see people who are so interested in animation. And he's done this really awesome introduction to Lottie tools for a conference down in Perth in Australia. So let's switch over. And what we'll do is I'll just show you a couple frames, and then I'm going to provide the links to this in the notes. Okay, so we'll send it over. So yeah, Andy gave this great talk. He talks about a few things. There's a lot of Lottie tools out there. Why would you want to be animating? Covers things like what is Lottie format, right? What is the Lottie format? It's like a text-based representation of animations, and he explains that for a little while, a little bit about where it came from, and why does this kind of format matter. It's actually a really, really cool introduction to what Lottie actually is, and it's totally worth watching watching this video. And then he goes and he talks about a few projects, and he also plugs Flow. So thank you, Andy, for talking about all of this stuff. I think it's really important that everybody has all their options out there for what they're going to do in terms of, tools that they're going to use for animation. And again, always cool to see people talking about Flow. Here's one example. Here's Synfig. Okay, so I'll provide a link to this, and we'll get back to it I'll provide a link to it, and you'll be able to click it in the show notes, and I'll also put it in, I'll plug it again in the Flow channel as well. And the other project, which is really cool, was this one, but it's called Minimon, and their Minimons live on your website. You can answer common questions, interact with your website visitors, and build your brand, which is really cool. And here's a little Minimon, and all the animations for the Minimons have been done in Flow. So Catherine, this is really cool. Hold on, I'm just getting the it was by Catherine Liu. Sorry, I was just looking up the last name. And it's really cool. You can come here and you can go and you can see all the available Minimons, and you can adopt one. And there's a bunch left. So in support of the community, everybody should go and adopt one. It's really cool. And you can put it down here. See, like this one? And I'm just clicking there, and you can ask questions of it and things like that. So really cool to see this as like a full-on project using Flow animations. This one's pretty cool too. Why are you so angry? Anyways, this one's great. Maybe I should adopt it. There we go. I'll adopt it later. And then I'll show you guys when I get it done, just so I don't put up my credit card information. Okay, so let's get back to what we are. Ooh, we don't want to see that. I'm trying to not do that. Let's talk about all the Flow stuff now. I got a little excited there, didn't I? I was about to go and show you guys all my credit card info. Okay, so now we're going to get into updates for the day. All right, let's go. I'm just pulling up my list because I got so many windows open here. And this is really cool. So we have a lot of stuff that we put into Flow. And some are a little bit bigger, some are a little bit smaller, some are features that people ask for, some are bugs that people ask for, and some are just full-on new features that we were able to finally coalesce into a good release. So let's get started and let's talk about expressions. Tim Kammerer, if you're watching, this one was for you because you asked for it. Expressions let you use math to make changes to your properties. So in any property field that is number-based, you can now do things like this. You can say the rotation is, let's say the rotation is 180, okay? And, well, let's just undo that. Let's say our rotation here is 180. Now we're creating the animation, okay? So it's gonna go, like that's our animation, all right? And I made this animation here at a half a second, right here in the middle. Okay, so it's gonna go forwards and back. And there, let's just watch that on rotation, okay? So if I go here again, what I can do is I can actually select that layer and I can say, well, I don't like that. I want it to be half that size. So I can do 180 divided by, or let's 180 divided by 2, okay? And now that's gonna calculate 90 degrees for you. Over here, you can see in the rotation panel, I did 180 divided by 2, and now we have 90. And let's watch that. Okay. You can do all kinds of things. So you could do 180 times 3. So you can do multiplications, right? You can do divisions. You can do all the simple stuff. You can even do additions, right? So if we were here, 270, I could say something like 45 times 9 plus 12, and it's going to calculate 417 for me, okay? So I want to do 9 quarter rotations and then add 12 degrees to that, and it's going to do that for me as well. Done. All right. Next, let's have a look at this new option by Super Rakish, or at least that's the email that asked for it. Asked, you know, if it's possible, you know, I have this animation and I want to export a GIF, but I want a looping GIF where the animation actually plays backwards after it's complete. So, oh no, I did it again. Oh God, I'm such a rookie. All right, let's go back. I did this whole thing, this whole little spiel. All right, so where were we? We did something like this. We did expressions. All right, here we started out with this being at 180 degrees. So there was an animation here that just goes 180 degrees like that. Okay, the animation was to the key value in the middle. And the first thing that I said was, well, we can do divisions. So let's do 180 divided by 2. And we hit enter. Now that value over here is 90. Okay. Any number value you can use expressions in now. And that is super handy. We can do 1 times 3.5. Okay, we're going to get 315. All right, you can do multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. You can do more than that, but for now, you can do math expressions inside of these property bounds. So even if I wanted to say like the width was 200 divided by 3, I could do that. Okay, and then it's going to create an exact 1/3 of that size of thing. Okay, so any property that is number based, you can use expressions now. Okay, so let's do the next one, reversing media. All right, again, requested by Super Rakish. And we had this animation. Let's say we just had any animation and you just wanted to create a GIF or an animated PNG and have the reverse be part of that animation. Well, now you can. Command Option, let's make a PNG. Command Option, Shift and P. And right down here inside the premium options, you're going to be able to click this reverses button. So if you have, so this isn't available in the free tier, but it is available for media and everything above it. You click reverses and loops and it's going to combine. So let's just turn off loops to begin with, and we're going to hit export. There you go. That's our animation. You see, it animated forwards and then backwards. And if we had said, if we had said that we want it to loop as well, it's also going to loop that entire animation. Let's go and replace it. Just like that. So now you don't have to create the reverse. For simple things, you don't have to create the reverse animation yourself. All right. Super handy little feature. It was an easy ask. So for everybody that's watching, if there's something that you want inside of Flow, just ask us, because it could be possible that it's like the thing that you're asking is no skin off our backs, and we can just drop it right into the next release. So always ask us. You can ask us on Slack, you can ask us here, you can email us. There's tons of ways to get in touch with us. Ask us on Twitter. I don't care. Call me, whatever. I'll put my phone number up at some point. You can do that. Or you can just figure it out. But little features like this, yeah, we might be able to get it in for you. So let's have a look at the next feature that we released. Okay, the next one is super cool too. It's a Dribbble exporter. All right, so getting animations up into Dribbble is, I mean, it's relatively easy, but let's say you're working on something that's like 10 pixels, 10 pixels by 10 pixels. Maybe you're making, or 40 pixels by 40 pixels, right? Maybe you're making something like, maybe you're making a spinner, all right? It's a tiny little animation, right? So getting that into Dribbble takes time. You got to export it, you got to create a video, you got to do all kinds of stuff, you got to drop it into something or make it, blah, blah, blah. This new exporter is going to give you options for generating a Dribbble optimized video. And there's a couple of different features. Now it's fairly new, so it's functional, but not super pretty, but it works. So let's have a look at that. All right, so here's an animation that we got. Just like that. Dribbble animation, pretty simple, right? What we're going to do is we're going to press Command, Option, Shift, and D. And what you're going to see down here is it's going to say Dribbble Exporter. The other way that we can get to it is by saying File, Export to Dribbble, just like that. And now what do we got? These premium options down here again. Again, media tiers and above, you can do it. You can actually export this from, so the exporter itself is actually available in the free tier, so you can play around with it, but the options for changing it are only available in media and above. So first things first, Dribbble requires a 4:3 ratio with a minimum size of 400 by 300, and they accept anything up, and they for videos they suggest going up to 1600 by 1200. Okay, so you can choose the frame size. Now it's important to choose the frame size because you want sometimes to have your animation inside that frame. You want your animation to be centered properly or sized properly. Okay, so this just gives you the 4 different basic frame sizes, and then you can do a couple different other things with it at the same, just to get it looking nice inside that frame. Okay, so for the moment, let's say this is 400 by 300, okay? And I'm just going to export. I'm not going to change anything. My original scene, okay, up here was 375 by 375, okay? So it was actually quite big. It's bigger than 300, so it's actually going to hang off of this frame, but I will show you a couple of options what we can do because of that. So the frame size of the video that we're going to export is 400 by 300. The scene scale, the scene that we did our animation in, is going to be 1:1 with what it is inside of Flow. There's going to be a shadow on it, and we're going to have square corners. We're not going to have a custom background, and we're going to export. And here we go. Okay, here is our animation. So you see how it's 400 by 300, and our animation is much bigger than that frame size. It's bigger because the original animation was bigger. What I can do is I can close that out. I can export to Dribbble again, and what I can do is I can change that scene scale. I can change it down by 0.5, or I can make it a quarter. I'm going to make it a quarter because it's quite big, and then I'm going to hit export, and we're going to replace that video. Okay, and there's my animation just centered right inside of there. Now, other options. Let's go and have a look. I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger. I'm going to make it 1600 by 1200. I'm going to leave the scene scale at It's 375, so it'll be fairly small. But what we're going to do is we're going to round the corners, and we're going to give a custom background color. So let's call this one, oh, I don't know, bright blue for some reason. And let's replace that video. And there we go. We have a bright blue background. We have our animation with just some softly rounded corners right in there. And there you go. And so if you wanted to go and export that and put that up in Dribbble, that's going to be pretty high resolution. Now, if you wanted that high resolution frame and you want your animation to be bigger, also easy. Okay, let's do no shadow, no custom background, round corners. Let's leave the round corners in. We're going to say the scene scale is, let's say it's 2, and this is going to be 1600 by 1200. Okay, so that should make our animation about 750. And we hit export. Replace. There you go. Okay. So lots of options for you to play around with to get that thing tuned up. And what will happen is as more and more people are using it, okay, more and more people start using this feature, you guys can ask us for fixes or changes or more mods that we can put in that one. But it's going to be really cool to see people getting their Dribbble animations formatted and put up there. And it's like a snap to get it into a format like that. Okay, so let's go and look at the next one. Where are we now? Lottie. Yes, Mate. This one is for you. Okay, first of all, let's go and delete this animation. Let's go and delete this animation. I created it as a demo. Lottie. There were some problems exporting fonts to Lottie. Lottie's a very delicate creature. So if we get like a character wrong in our export, remember it's all text. If we get a wrong character in there, it just won't work. So there were a couple things that we tuned up a little bit with the Lottie export, but one in particular was embedding fonts directly into the file, because for some versions of Lottie players, accessing the fonts outside of the file wasn't working very well. Okay, it also just formats it so that you have one file that you can just drop over to an engineer without actually having to provide a bunch of other assets and linking and all that stuff too. And it makes it just more consistent between exports and export platforms. So first off, let's go and export. This timeline has nothing in it. We're going to export Lottie to Lottie Web. Okay, so file format for Lottie Web and Lottie iOS. I mean, this will export for Lottie iOS as well, but I'm not going to bother rendering an Xcode project today. There is our nope, that's the wrong one. Let's get rid of these. Those are old. Lottie. There we go. So we got that custom font that's embedded right in that file. And if you really want to see the details of it, you can always click here, and this is a representation of it. And there you go. That, wherever that is coming from, that is what a font looks like when it's embedded. All right. So next, you got a little sneak preview of what I was going to say is we added text changes as key values for Lottie files. So here's a little technique, and this is where we're going to learn a little bit about flow. Let's say we wanted our animation to end with the word Lottie. What we can do is what we're going to do is we're going to click in to our text field, okay? And we're going to move our playhead to a time before the end of the animation, and we're going to press delete. And we're going to move that playhead, and I'm just dragging and I'm deleting. I'm just dragging, I'm letting go. Okay, and then we want to delete a value, dragging, letting go of the playhead, deleting a value, dragging, letting go, deleting a value, and just look up here. The cursor stays in the text field the entire time. So if you want to be making at least sort of like typewriter animations, this is the easiest way to go about it. Okay, come back here, press delete, come back to the very beginning, and say delete all of that stuff. And now what I'll do is I will select all of those animations, and I'm going to distribute them, and I'm going to make them all step left, or step right, just like that. And then I'm just going to compress them down by pushing shift and dragging a little bit like that. And now we have an animation that types out Lottie. And if I go and export that, and I refresh, there you go. Keyframe animations for text in Lottie are up and running and working in iOS and in web, and they should be in Android as well. All right, next up, image fills. We had a little bit of a bug where if you had originally created an image, okay, so we had this little bit of a bug where if you had changed the fill type of a shape to an image and then changed it back to a color, it was just going to export as the image. And the same thing with the gradient. If you had a gradient, it would always export as a gradient, even if you had switched this back. Okay, so let's just go and export this. We're going to export this to HTML. We're going to turn off Lottie Web. We don't need that at the moment. And we exported the wrong thing. Let's go with image fills, and I'm going to open that up. Go into HTML. Yes, I'm still on the desktop. Good. Come in here, image fills.html. There is our animation. Okay. Blue circle. Woohoo! We go to gradients. Re-export. Run it. There you go. Gradients. Images. Export. Rerun it there, and it's this switching back and forth. Before today, if you had ever created an image or a gradient, you wouldn't be able to get back to color. Okay, so here's us getting back to the gradient, exporting again, all done, and back to color. And Marco, if you're watching this, this is a bug that came out of your request about SVGs and Figma and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm about to lose out on my computer. We are just about done for the day. We got one more little feature to show you. Let me just bring it up. And yes. So this is a cool little feature. So it's really easy for us to export animations, but sometimes there's a little bit of nuance in how a developer, me, you, whoever, are going to implement those animations. And something that crept up last year or a while ago was this lovely little MailChimp animation. Okay, you're on MailChimp.com and you just go and hover over the chimp. Oh, it does it. There you go. If you click on it, he does this animation where he pops up like that and gives a little wink. Okay, it used to be a hover element. I'm pretty sure it used to be a hover element. So we created a hover element. Also, we wanted to use it for some experiments that we were doing. Here's an animation. Whoops. Let's slow that down. It's a ½ second long. And it goes from hello to there. So if we go and we export now to that hover element option, and we take this, we open it up. There we go. We have our web page. Oh, always. All right. One more time. I'll get better at this. MailChimp. There you go. See that? Ooh, look at that little hover. Yeah, there we go. That little hover animation. How are you going to implement that? Well, come over here, hit flow. I have a lovely little animation. This one's a bit boring probably, but it's functional. Hit export, choose hover element, hit export, hit open, and there you go. Hello, there. Out, in, out, in. Now, when I am talking about, sometimes the implementation is a little bit tricky for developers, and I'm a bit of an engineer. I'm not the greatest. There are some lovely people I've worked with who are just kill it compared to me. But one of the things is for UX, you know, UI, UX, that feeling of something. If you roll into an animation and you roll out of it before it's done, it should stop and it should play back exactly from that point. So if you just go like this, right? Super responsive, and it just plays forwards and back from wherever it is. So the hover element, this hover element export gives you not only, you know, an on hover play, but it figures out what exactly is happening at the moment where you're rolling out, and it will adjust the animation and switch it to the one playing backwards, and it'll play it from there. And it's super nice and smooth and responsive. So you can start to use this for some really cool elements in your websites. All right, that is a bit of a long episode. So I hope you really enjoyed it, and I will see you next week. Based on, and I'll let you know what I'm talking about next week. It might be a mishmash of stuff rather than a sequence of things, because there's lots of little things to go over now. Talk to you soon. Bye.